There is so much to unpack with this new Pokemon trailer, but the most important thing we need to analyze is the very end of the trailer right here. We can see a panning over shot of Lumiose City from the Pokemon X and Y games, and as it closes out, we can not only see the structure of the city, which is going to remain for the duration of the game Pokemon Legends Z2A, but we can see the urban redevelopment plan. I think that is going to be a really big component as we look at Pokemon Legends Z2A, and I've got a lot to talk about regarding this, including things like new Mega Evolutions that could be coming, the sorts of style, gameplay, and the sorts of setting that this is going to take place in, how the urban development and all that plays into the gameplay, and my own speculation on really what the story is going to be like in this new game. And if the game is going to be any good, we can even take a few little minor hints for that as well. So stay tuned, this is going to be a really good video. So firstly, I expect many open areas. As many might be afraid of, the urban development plan misnomer kind of gives the vibe that it's all going to be a giant city. There's not going to be any space for large grasslands, water, and all the rest of it. I believe the city does have some level of canals and things like that, so there's going to be plenty of water, but there are going to be large open spaces, and I'm going to explain why in just a moment. So the first thing we need to analyze here is that Pokemon Legends Z2A is based in the same city that was for Pokemon X and Y. For anyone who doesn't remember, it was both the introduction of fairy types and the introduction of Mega Evolution into these games. So a really big moment in the history of the Pokemon franchise. Now, Pokemon X and Y focuses on this character here. He's called AZ, and who he is he's a 3,000-year-old king who once used the ultimate weapon to end a war in Kalos, and he did this to revive his best friend, Floette, which you can see in the image right here. Now, what you might not remember is this inadvertently kicked off Mega Evolution, something about the ultimate weapon hitting a distant asteroid, creating the special material that then turned into Mega Stones later on in the Pokemon universe. So he created Mega Evolution, okay? And as we can see in the end of the trailer, they do a little nod to Mega Evolution right at the end as they show the little symbol appearing on the screen. This is going to be a really big deal and is what gets me the most excited about this upcoming game. So, with all that said, this sets a clear precedent to me that the story takes place 2,000 to 3,000 years ago. What was occurring in France at the time was actually the Bronze Age. Now, I don't know a whole lot about the Bronze Age, but my understanding is that agriculture was a really big component in it, and they were really starting to urbanize the different developments, so that would make sense lining up with the different things we know about the game so far. That being said, I think it could go much further into the future, say 1,000 years ago, because we don't know exactly when he used the weapon. It's not really clear. And I think we could see many elements of a medieval era lasting even into the Renaissance era. It could be any of those sorts of zones, and really they have similar infrastructure and similar styles, so I don't think it matters too much. Now, given they are hinting at Mega Evolution, it is clear to me, and I have no doubt in my mind about this, that we will see the creation of Mega Evolution during the game. It would be a giant wasted and missed opportunity for them to not tell AZ's story. Okay, AZ's story was a big part of the Pokemon X and Y games, and telling that story here would be really awesome to see. And so, I think it is clear we will see the creation of Mega Evolution and the first Mega Pokemon to roam the Earth. Now, the other thing we need to know, and you might not have seen this, is that Nintendo America has confirmed that the adventure is set entirely within Lumiose City. As I said before, this might make people afraid that there are only really specific areas that you can go into and it's all going to be cityscape and stuff like that. No, this will be the early urbanization of France, and so there will be lots of large open areas for things like agriculture and stuff like that, as well as your more urban districts as well. So it'll be very divided, but it will all still be one city. That is how I'm imagining this game to play out. The other thing is that this does give a bit Cyberpunk 2077 vibes or GTA vibes, where it's all set inside one city, and that set is massive, but it's still set inside one city. So don't worry about the diversity in gameplay coming from a cityscape. Now, how will different kinds of Pokemon appear? I think this is really, really important. I would really hope to see them hanging off of buildings, flying around, running along rooftops. The more freedom we get in this sort of new environment, the better. And if they really miss the opportunity to put Pokemon inside this different, unique environment, then it's going to be quite a shame. The last thing we got that used terrain in combination with Pokemon was things like bug Pokemon hanging from trees in Pokemon Legends Arceus. And I hope we get some similar things happening in this game. As for characters, I expect there to be way more people in this than there were in Pokemon Legends Arceus because it's an urban development project, but it's hard to say how they will fit in with the overall story. There's a good chance you'll be investigating this Mega Evolution phenomenon soon after it occurs, and maybe the opening titles of the game are actually AZ firing off that weapon to end the war and revive his Floette. Now, the next thing we need to consider is that Mega Evolution is making a return. Okay, a big moment for the Pokemon franchise. I've been waiting for Mega Evolution personally for a very, very long time. But what does that actually mean? I expect 3 new starters to get Mega Evolutions at a minimum. If this doesn't happen, I would be very, very surprised. The other thing we know is that in Hisui from Pokemon Legends Arceus featured variants directly tied in with the region and how it was talking about early Japanese colonization. For example, Hisuian Typhlosion was modeled after volcanoes and that sort of thing. Hisuian Decidueye had very Archer vibes, and Hisuian I think it was Samurott, had very samurai vibes. So very early Japanese times, and that's just what they were based on. So new Megas could focus on some sort of medieval vibe. We're getting a lot of soldiers, a lot of armor, maybe even things like cannons and springles and stuff like that. So we could get some really interesting Mega Evolutions to come out of these upcoming games. Now, the game is slated for release in 2025. This is the longest time, I think, in over a decade since we've had between 2 main game releases. The one beforehand, obviously, is Scarlet and Violet, and the DLC I don't think many people count. I personally would count them, so maybe it's not that big of a break, but we are going a full year without any Pokemon mainline DLCs or games. Unless they drop a DLC on us randomly, I have no idea, but this is really interesting, and to me this signals either timing with the Switch 2, or just creating a better overall game because they've felt the pressure from the community. That's a lot more unlikely than the Switch 2, but hopefully it launches with less bugs either way. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is this. The title of the game. It is obviously Pokemon Legends Z2A. Now, not only is this the opposite of AZ's name, which is the guy who I think this is going to be based all around, but it's almost signifying a return to the roots of Pokemon. The Pokemon Company, Game Freak, and everyone else know that they haven't done the best job with their games lately, but they also know that they've lost touch with some of the core elements of gameplay that people are really looking forward to when it comes to Pokemon, and that their audience is really growing up with the franchise. And so I think this signifies a return to the roots. Z2A, they're coming from the end of the series and they're bringing it back and they're making a new fresh start. I think they've seen the reception Pokemon Legends Arceus received, and now they're telling us, okay, Pokemon Legends is the new fresh start for Pokemon that's going to really bring it into the future and bring it back to modern gaming. And that excites me beyond anything else. Please, if you enjoyed this video, if you learned something, go and subscribe down below. Don't forget to like the video if you learned something new. I really appreciate it, guys.